Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PCFX Fan Club podcast. I'm Benjamin Yoder, your host, here today, once again, Matt LaFrance, filler, here. He sent us on a journey.
Yeah, I'm kind of responsible for this time.
A gambling journey. We love gambling. We're going to be talking about Pachio-kun. I don't know, is there what do you say the full name for this game is? Because Pachio-kun's a character name.
Yeah, but it's something like Maboroshi something, Nazo no Shima or something like that. It's like, the mysterious island, something along those lines.
But it's a part of this Pachinko franchise, basically. I don't know how many games there are, but I've seen other games on it on like Game Boy and stuff like that as well. But it features a little Pachinko ball, which is a little metal ball, and he's got little cartoony eyes and stuff like that. It's pretty cute looking. But I feel like most of us probably don't have a lot of direct experience with Pachinko, or at least maybe extended experience with Pachinko. So I thought today, we thought today we'd talk through our experience playing this game. I think we both beat it, right? I think we both finished it. So
yep.
I was hoping to beat it more times because there's different characters and stuff which we'll get into. But then by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, I might be good. I might not need any more of this. So
I actually was kind of ready to play some more, but I also once I finished it, I was like, I think
I'm really curious about the end of your experience with the game because mine was a journey. It felt like towards the back half, but we'll talk about that a little bit. So that's today's topic. Mostly. So I think we're going to just kind of start talking a little bit about Pachinko, and then also just to kind of get, some base level down of what Pachinko is. And, somebody who hadn't really played Pachinko before, I kind of the questions I had getting into this and stuff like that. And Matt, I know you had done stuff with Pachinko in the past as well, right? So
I had. Yep. Yeah. Do you want to start there or?
Well, before we do that, I did want to give a little update here. So So it's a little personal. I'll try to keep it short and not super deep, so you guys don't have to listen to all this. But as you probably know, PCFX Fan Club has been generally kind of I don't know, spotty on putting stuff out. I mean, we have our consistent schedule. The thing we promised to do from the start, we've been pretty good about putting out a quarterly podcast, basically, right? And then everything from there, we just kind of fill in. It's been a little slower recently. And that's kind of weird because earlier this year, I was actually having a lot of success building the Twitter account and stuff like that. But unrelated to the PCFX Fan Club, basically, I have been going through some therapy stuff. And I have been going for 2 years. But this year in particular has been really hard stuff to work through specifically. And when I say that, it's more there's a lot of things I'm having to deconstruct about me as a person and put back together. And it's very time consuming and requires a lot of input from other things. So I'm having to prioritize a lot of different things that are not my usual things, like making podcasts and making videos and stuff like that, right? Kind of these things. So I've had to deprioritize a lot of that stuff. And so it's been a little challenging more recently, but I hope the end goal of this is, the end goal overall is to just be hopefully be a better person, be a happier person, right? But ideally, I think projects like this work best when somebody in the seat of it is mentally well, right? And I've had my problems throughout the years as well.
Mental wellness, what is that?
Mental wellness, it's hard sometimes, guys. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing I do want to say that I think has been pretty prevalent. I think if you pay attention to how I word things a lot of times, a lot of how I dealt with getting things done in the past was guilting myself. In some ways, the PCFX Fan Club is a result of feeling guilty about creating PCFX content and then having a channel with other content on it. So I feel guilty that you come to my channel for this thing. And then I'm let me separate these so you don't have weird expectations, something like that. And ultimately, I'm not saying I regret making the PCFX Fan Club, but a lot of what I have been doing has been driven by guilting myself essentially into doing it. And in therapy, we have basically taken that away, and it's caused some other motivational problems and things like that. Maybe not problems, I need to find new ways to motivate myself and things like that. So I think it's just going to be a little slow and spotty, more so than usual here in the short term until I kind of figure things out and get in this position where I can start kind of putting the pieces back together of how do I interact with the PCFX fan club long term. Does that all make sense, Matt?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say to you, like, I'm going to speak for our audience here. I mean, this is something that would come up a lot in ROM hacking circles too. Is it's like real life always comes first, right?
Yeah.
Real life happens. So
Yeah.
I think people understand.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's patience. And if I ever, I will say like I'm working on this thing, and it just kind of falls off and goes into nowhere. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with like the way I was structuring my life before and stuff. And I feel like I'm finally getting at the root of that problem because the surface level was not the problem, is what I'm realizing. So a lot of failing over and over and over again with the things that I knew how to try to fix it with not working, and now I'm addressing this other thing. Um, so hopefully that's like a good explanation without being too personal. I don't know. I don't like want people come on here and be like, "Oh, therapy time, Ben." But I just want to communicate that because I think I do feel like some sense of like I don't know guilt because like that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid, right? But I feel like it's noticeable. I think the way I said it on my own personal podcast, which I recently stopped doing weekly shows for, I think I said like you can know my mental health level by checking how often the PCFX fan club is putting out content. Because if I have bad mental health, everything falls off basically. So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts because I do feel like I've been a little quiet on stuff lately. Um, but yeah, it is a lot of me going through personal stuff, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll get there though. So someday, one day, my brain will be dedicated to PCFX. Maybe I don't know. Probably not actually. Maybe that's what I'm trying to avoid in therapy.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think that might be a sign of decreased mental health rather than increased.
all PCFX. That is my personality now. Which in some ways it does. Like you're like, oh, you're the PCFX guy. I'm like, yeah, yes, I am. So, but that's all I really have to say. Anything else you want to say about that before we talk about Pachinko?
No, no, I'm ready.
All
So
right.
I'm sure this is the game that our audience has been waiting for us to talk about too.
Yes, Essential Games, Killer Apps. It was in the first year of the system, if I recall correctly. So it was one of the earlier games on the PCFX, I think.
I might have been 1995, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah,
Well,
95.
yeah,
So,
technically 94 was the first year, but it would have came out in December or something. Yeah.
yeah. I think it came out in the well, the console came out in December. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
so it's pretty early on in the system's life, but I I know that pachinko games are everywhere on console. If you ever go buy an import Japanese game, you're gonna run across a lot of mahjong and pachinko, right?
Yep.
Um, I never really understood what pachinko was. I mean, I knew the general concept. If you don't know what pachinko is, basically it's kind of like it kind of looks like a slot machine, but with like pinball embedded in it a little bit. And instead of shooting one ball, you shoot a bunch of balls out, and you have like this little lever that kind of controls the rate and speed the balls come out, kind of thing, basically. Um, and it basically plays like bounces around on this board, right? And then you kind of try to hit it in like specific spots, which then starts the gambling part of it basically, which is where slot machines start happening or other stuff starts happening, stuff like that. So I think probably most of our audience knows what that is, but I wanted to make sure like the general concept was out there up front. um
I would assume most of our audience probably has an idea of what that is, but probably hasn't done it in
yes.
person or in video game form.
Yeah,
Mo-
because I think I have touched pachinko stuff, but I don't know what's going on, right? So there's a difference between like looking at it, acknowledging it, and like, pressing the A button to make Mario jump kind of thing versus, actually playing the video game, playing a platformer, right? They're two different, very different things. Um, so I came into this a bit blind overall, though. Despite having some pachinko game stuff like that, I didn't really know what I was doing at all. But I think you have played at least one pachinko game before, right?
I have, yeah. Yeah, the one that I played was Mezase Hachi Pro Pachio-kun, which I
Mhm.
believe is the first Pachio-kun game on the Famicom. And the reason I played that was because I had translated the script for it. And the reason I translated the script for it is just because I think I was maybe going through games that came out in a certain year,
Mhm.
for the Famicom or something like that, and just seeing if I could dump scripts for them. So I did that for this game. And I was like, well, it seems simple enough to translate. But then I was like, well, I really wanted context for some of the lines. And then I had to play the game. And I kind of wanted to at least see what Pachinko was like anyway. So when I started getting into it, I actually ended up having to buy a book on how to play Pachinko
Was it in
because
Japanese or is it an English book?
it's in English.
Okay.
It's actually a gentleman, and I think this was like, I'd have to double check, but I feel like his information is actually from like kind of the early 90s. So it would have been just after a game like this came out in 1989, or sometime in the late 80s, like that. So it's kind of contemporary with like the kind of pachinko machines that would have been featured in that game specifically. Um, and that was super helpful, mostly for terminology. It's not even all just like playing the game, but it's more like, if I'm translating a pachinko video game, what do you call that thing in the middle of the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
pachinko machines, right? Like, how do you refer to any of these things? So that was helpful, and terms that were used in the game too, just to make sure that I knew what was what. So,
yeah. Yeah,
but I did actually finish that game. I beat it. I posted a full playthrough of it on YouTube. And I kind of liked Pachinko. So I think I've been talking maybe for the past year and a half, 2 years since we kind of started this podcast, that like, oh hey, I want to play, you know, Pachio-kun FX on the PCFX, and so we finally got around to it.
yeah. Yeah, you are probably the first person I heard that was like, I know how pachinko works now, is basically what you said to me. I was like, oh, I don't know anybody who knows how pachinko works. Because like it's basically gambling in Japan. There's some weird laws around it. I don't know how true this is today, but at least back when I was a kid, like watching something on G4 or something about pachinko, right? They would talk about like, oh, you get your balls, your metal balls, you turn them in, and you get a little toy, and you take it over to the next store over, and you basically can change that out for like actual money, right? So you put money in to get your essentially currency to play the game, and then you go next door and you cash out, basically, kind of thing, right? And so in that sense, like, there's only so much a slot machine can let you do because they don't want you winning consistently, right? Like, that's not how the business works, right? We need you to fail at the same time. So we can only give you so much control, I feel like. And so my impression from the outside, I honestly don't even know if I really ever thought about like what were the balls doing at the time, right? I knew you shoot balls. I knew there's like usually a spot you wanted to get it into, but I didn't know what like good performance was. I didn't know it was like, if there's other things you'd be hitting because there's other stuff on the board and stuff like that. So I was at basically just at a complete loss when I started this game of just like turn the balls on, put it in the big hole at the top of the field, and we'll see what happens. Kind of thing. Um, so that was like
And
generally my impression when I first started it. So
yeah, yeah, and I mean, you can even have like a limited amount of success doing that too.
yeah,
It's pretty crazy when like you just, you're like, okay, well, and I guess one thing to point out is, um, so yeah, there's a kind of, on the real machines, there's a mechanical, electronic mechanism that's mechanically, launching these balls.
yeah.
And so there's basically, you're adjusting a strength meter, which essentially goes from 0 to 100. It's more like 99, but
Mm,
so on some level, a, a decent portion of the game is literally just, where on this power meter do you want to be placing your your lever in order to start generating the results that you want to generate.
yeah.
Did you find that, basically while you were playing?
Yeah, I think I knew generally about that. Like there are different spots on the field you want to shoot, basically is what you're saying, right? I think
Yeah,
is what you got. And I also recognize that like certain games let you, for video games at least, would let you just kind of move the ball, like the shots to a spot and leave it there. But there's other games where it drifts. So in the case of Pachio-kun, it's like you can say I want to shoot the balls at, I forget if the total is like 100 power or whatever, but like I want to shoot the balls at 75 power, but then it will slowly drift to the left. And
it
I think
will.
what they're trying
Yeah,
to replicate is, I think in real life, my understanding is there's a little wheel that you grab onto, and there's like a little metal rim, and if you're touching the metal rim, it like completes or disrupts this connection. I don't know how it works, and then that tells the machine shoot the ball. So if you want to keep playing pachinko, you have to have your hand on this wheel that determines the power. And I'm guessing over time, your hand might start to relax, basically, and you have to kind of like keep resetting it. I don't know if that's true, but I figured that's maybe what they're trying to like replicate. I guess.
yeah. It's a good question because I actually, like, I've never played a physical machine, so I'm
Mhm.
not sure exactly what it is that is replicating. Because I was kind of thinking like maybe it was just more of like mechanical properties of like the early machines,
Mhm.
um, and I'm not even sure if that's something that like is would be an issue with the kind of newer like electronic machines and things like that, but I'm not sure exactly. I just know that is something that it's simulating in pretty much all of these, at least all of the video game versions that I've played, the Pachio-kun games.
I think you mentioned a couple times like older machines and newer machines. Like, do you have an understanding of like what that means exactly? Like, how do you classify these machines and what the differences are?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I guess without getting into like the history too much in the limited capacity that I understand it, um, the you know like American style pinball and Japanese pachinko actually originate from the same game. So it's basically a game of like rolling a ball down a plank with some kind of nails in it and trying to score on holes in the board.
If you
Um,
played Shenmue, and imagine a lot of people in our audience did, there's a game in there
yes,
called Lucky Hit, which I think is that game, if I
I
recall
think
correctly.
so. Yeah,
But I mean, it's in other games as well, but Shenmue I think is the big one because everyone thought Lucky Hit was funny.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Um, so yeah, so from that, like I feel like at least in like that first Pachio-kun game that I played, there are
mhm.
sort of these. There are different types of machines, like a flower machine, I think was one of them. So it has these tulips, and each of the tulips has slots, and the petals will kind of open and close.
Mhm.
And I think you see tulips on a bunch of different types of pachinko machines because of that, right? But it's kind of because it was one of the original machines was a flower machine.
Gotcha.
Um, there was also the airplane machines. Those ones will have a wing mechanic where it kind of the wings will open and close. And originally there was an airplane. You had to hit slots that would activate the wings. And then when the wings open and close, you're trying to get the balls in there. And there's other kind of machines. I think like that first game had telephone machines. Trying to think if there's any of the other kinds that I can remember the names of. Those are kind of the ones that stick out. But there was like 4 or 5 major like kinds of pachinko machines. Um, and I feel like from that stuff, we've gotten like the machines, they've just sort of are evolutions of those original kinds of machines.
Yeah, one of the things that I did because when I first started playing, I couldn't figure out like how to succeed or not succeed, which is a
Yeah.
lot of things going on that we'll get into here a little bit that might change some of that. But most modern pachinko machines, I felt like, had a very large screen in the middle, and the balls don't go over those at all. Um, and then you have like a column on the left that was like basically where you kind of shot the balls down, and then there's, I think if I recall correctly, the video said you would shoot the balls down there, try to get into a jackpot mode, just basically gives you more balls if you score, but you'd go and score on the right side of the machine. So kind of the goal was to keep a lower power normally, but then that would basically start a slot machine that would, if it hit the right numbers like a normal slot machine would, like, everything matches up or whatever symbols, then you push the power up to go to the other side of the machine, basically. I don't know
Yeah,
how much depth is on those though, because it seems they're very narrow. So I don't really know, like, where, like, I don't know if you can, as a player, do that much beyond just kind of say go left or go right. That
yeah.
makes
I mean, I
sense.
think that is kind of a good point. Is it's like the mechanics of these games aren't actually terribly complicated.
Yeah.
I think they can be specific to the machine. So I think that that's one of the 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 things that can be enjoyable is learning a particular machine because
Yeah.
it's going to have its own way of scoring and its own idiosyncrasies. But
I think
part of
Pachio-kun reflects that as well too. So
yeah,
I think that is good at that. So
but part of the appeal too, like it is kind of strategic, just in choosing the right pachinko machine.
yeah.
I don't know if you like ever sort of looked at like the machine options and been like, why are there three available of each machine, that in each location, right? And then you can play the same machines in multiple locations. If you're approaching a pachinko parlor, like you're the first way you win or lose is which machine, like is being lucky picking a machine, or at least being like knowledgeable about picking a machine. Knowing when you need to change machines because this machine is not paying out.
Yeah, I think one thing I saw as well when I was looking up how to play pachinko is that some machines actually have a, like, jackpot counter on them, and it'll let you know how many jackpots this machine gave out recently, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm very skeptical of all this because, again, at the end of the day, it is gambling, and, like, the idea of, like, having control in a game of chance essentially is, like,
yeah,
a weird thing. That's not to say there's no control. I'm just saying that, like, showing me the jackpots, I know you want me to play because you want my money. So showing me the better machine, I don't know if I even trust that. That's right.
yeah.
This is a general thing. It's not a part of a Pachio-kun specifically,
Yeah.
but, like,
Well, I
with
mean,
these
and
games.
keep in mind, yeah, we are talking about a video game. So this is kind of an idealized version of being able to enjoy pachinko in an idealized way that you kind of can't when you go into the pachinko parlor for real.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the if we were to say one last thing about, like, actual pachinko machines, um I think a lot of it is, like, spectacle. Like, I don't think this comes off as much in Pachio-kun as we'll get into this. It sounds like it's maybe built on more older machines, but those screens play a ton of graphics. Like, you're playing a Fist of the North Star machine, and, the main character from that's going around and punching guys until they explode and stuff like that, basically. And there's these, like, slots that kind of come down in big numbers. Everything is, like, over designed. The machines are super gaudy. Like, sometimes they'll have characters like bulging out of the machine because they have, like, 3D prints basically of characters, like, what's her name, Ray from
Yeah,
uh
Genesis,
yeah,
Evangelion.
Evangelion. There's, like,
Yeah,
a machine of that where it's just like her entire torso is just coming out of the side of the machine and, like, watching you play, kind of thing. It's weird looking. But, I think a lot of pachinko is spectacle in some regard, but also I think in a lot of ways it's relaxing because you kind of just turn this lever on and you just kind of, like, do slight adjustments to try to get what you want out of the machine. And then, like, in maybe Japanese stereotype form, smoke a cigarette with your other hand, kind of thing, while you do it, kind of thing, right? Like, I think it is a way to kind of turn your brain off, I think, is my general
yes,
thought. That's not
yeah,
100% true, but generally I think once you've learned a machine, you're going to just kind of get into it, right? I
yeah.
don't think you're going to have to think too much about it.
And honestly, like just my experience playing this game, I feel like was like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was accurately simulated for me. I kind of got into it and was able to just like it was kind of nice to just pass the time, turn my brain off. Actually, honestly, you know what I did? I for a while I watched YouTube videos while I played pachinko.
I crafted in Final Fantasy 11 while playing Pachinko. Is what I did. Had one
Yep.
hand on my other keyboard, put ingredients in the thing, and then my other hand on Pachinko. Because really, all you're doing is babysitting it until you hit a jackpot, basically. And
Yeah.
there's definitely boards where that's not necessarily the case, but that's kind of the appeal, is that every board kind of has its own thing. Um, So yeah, the game itself though, because I think that original game you played, if I recall correctly, it's pretty straightforward, but it's kind of like it's kind of set in the real world where you're just kind of like earning balls, and then I think you told me that like with your earnings you can buy furniture and things like that, right? For the one you played.
No, that would actually that's a
Okay.
very interesting game I'd like to play on the Super Famicom.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The original one that I played though, it's kind of like you're simulating like an actual pachinko parlor. So you're playing
Mm,
Pachio-kun, the pachinko ball. You go into the pachinko parlor and you walk around. You can talk to all the patrons. They all have stuff to say, and you can sit down in any of the available machines and play it. So there's like a little simulation element like that, and then you have to clear the pachinko parlor.
yeah.
So you have to like clear a certain number of machines in the parlor, and then you can move on to the next parlor. And there's something like 5 or 6 parlors, and once you clear the last parlor, you beat the game.
Yeah. When
That's
it
how
comes
that
to
would work.
like pachinko video games, I feel like from what I've seen, there's kind of like two distinct ones. One is more of a like a recreation of an actual pachinko machine, right? Like I think all my PS2 ones, you basically like boot it up. There's nothing going on. You just choose the menu option. You're playing pachinko, right? I think Pachio-kun, and there's some other series like on the PS2. I think they might have been Simple Series games where like they kind of build a little world around pachinko. So it's like it's not just you loading up a machine, getting your balls and like cashing out. There's these characters like you mentioned before. In the case of the PS2 ones I've seen, there's like whole romance stories and all that stuff, and like open worlds you can kind of explore and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it,
I think the Pachinko Paradise, like Pachipara series, like there's a whole bunch of them like that. They seem super interesting.
and I would say Pachio-kun on the PCFX falls more along that line, although definitely not with the same level of like depth. Like you're not really exploring or anything like that. It's more of they set up like an interesting little scenario of like what's happening. Which since you can read Japanese, maybe you should do a better, or you will do a better job explaining it than I could.
Oh, I can give it a go. Yeah. So I guess in terms of like this particular game, it's a Pachyo-kun game. So and one of the reasons I wanted to play this too is because I was curious, like, what does it wasn't even that long, like maybe 7 or 8 years or something between like the first game that I played and then this one that came out on the PCFX. Like, what does that do to a pachinko game, right?
Mhm.
And so in this case, it's for the PCFX. So there's a nice animated intro. There are a bunch of pretty girl characters that you can play. You aren't playing as Pachio-kun. He is your advisor.
Yeah,
And the basic
there's
setup,
at least one guy as well. I'm
this
pretty
there
certain.
is,
Yeah.
yes, pretty boy and a bunch of pretty girls. And yeah, so basically the setup is that you're going to this island to participate in a contest. So think of like Dead or Alive. People get the invitation to the Dead or Alive tournament. And I mean, I think at least in that one, they know they're going to fight with martial arts. This is literally, you don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all of these people show up at this island to test their skills. And a lot of the people seem like they're like magic users. There's a real fantasy element to it. They're magic
Magic.
users.
There's like a computer, like nerdy girl kind of
Yep.
thing. There's like a Galaxy for All and Yuna knockoff looking girl with like a
Yep.
mech suit and stuff like
She's
that.
actually a cosplayer. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a ninja cat girl
Mhm.
and stuff. So yeah, nobody knows, but when they get to the island, they find out they're playing pachinko. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think and I just use machine translation, but I think Pachio-kun said something like it would be unfair for everyone to use their powers, so everyone will play pachinko instead,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Which I thought was like a cute little touch of like all these characters have fantastical powers and stuff, but they're just gonna gamble their way to victory kind of thing. Which I guess the powers come into play a little bit, because each of them have like special skills. They're all kind of the same special skills, but technically they have these skills that are based off their magic and things like that. So
yeah. I was wondering about that too, and I feel like I wonder, like, because it feels a little half baked, like because I think they do talk about the characters like in terms of what their specialties are and stuff like that, and they'll reference like I want to, I don't know, uh, you know increase my magical ability or something like that, but you don't I don't think it makes any like practical difference in terms of the games. Although so uh because I played through with one character. I played the like jungle girl character.
Mhm. I played
Um
the little blue magical witch girl who's like the main. She's the first option on there, basically.
yeah, yeah. I tried a little bit with the computer girl, nerd girl that you were talking
Mhm.
about. Um but I guess I didn't really check to see like her skills if they were especially different. Do you remember what your skills were for the most part?
So I did check just because I was not certain. The names are all different and the
Yeah,
descriptions are all different, but they are all the
they
same
do the same
skills.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the
So
only thing that's fair, probably.
yeah, basically what happens is each character has I think about 5 skills, and usually they just kind of impact the game in different ways cuz technically this is a competitive pachinko game. You are going to somebody else's turf essentially and battling them with pachinko.
You have
And
to beat
so
the Pokemon gym, but it's
yeah,
Pachinko.
essentially. And it's kind of cute because you're playing pachinko and their face pops up and they're like yelling at you or something or making noises and stuff. But kind of like I guess like there's like other Tetris style games that do this. You can like choose from like a magic spell list and like basically disrupt their game in some way or benefit yourself in some way. And usually that comes down to like for disrupting them, it's like it prevents them from scoring or they can't shoot any balls for like 30 seconds. But also if you have the power on, the ball counter still goes down. So you want to try to turn your ball counter off so you don't lose balls, but then count for 30 seconds and turn it back on kind of thing.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I didn't actually realize that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many balls you're really saving, but I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
turn it down every time and try to wait it out and then try to get
That
it back
makes
on.
sense. Sure.
And then there's ones where like you can steal points from them occasionally. Like when they score, you'll get the score instead. And then there's ones where it's you set your own jackpot. So basically you just like auto win, not auto win, but like a slot machine. Oh, they're not all slot machines, but every machine has like a scoring phase. So you play the game, you do something, and it goes into a scoring phase. It basically sends you directly to that scoring phase. So you can just get as many balls as possible, basically. And then the last one is literally you will just defeat them immediately. And
In the game.
so yeah,
I
so
mean
you
the
you,
match.
you
But
don't even have to fight them basically. Um, and they're cute. I like them. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know how obvious they are when they happen though. I don't know how you felt about that, but like I would say there's only like maybe 2 times that the enemy would do something that I'd actually realize they casted a spell or something. So
yeah, it is a little hard. So that's one thing I kind of wanted to mention is that so I mean there's multiple things you can do like at a location, for instance. So you go to the location, you can play pachinko where you can kind of just practice on the machines,
mhm.
and that gives you an opportunity to actually build up your number of balls, which doesn't make much difference other than
Yeah,
it just helps you not lose on machines. Basically, practice the machines and you can score points. The points are what you use to cast your abilities, so those are
yeah,
pretty important. And then you can compete against the boss character, basically there. But when you're competing against them, you never see their board. The
yeah,
only way that you know the state of their game is through like when their portrait pops up, and um, I don't think it's consistent, but it seems like every 30 seconds or so
yeah,
they'll kind of pop up and they'll say something, and you'll be able to see their score, the number of balls that they have, um, in place of your score, basically for the few seconds that they're on the screen.
yeah.
So you can kind of get an impression like what's going on that way.
Yeah, you're basically making some assumptions. It's one of those things that, like, sometimes, and this is, I think, the problem with any game where you have a computer-controlled opponent doing something out of your sight, is you start questioning, like, how is this actually determined? Are they actually playing over there, or like, how does this work out? Right? I kind of wish there's a way you could like look at their board and just see what was happening, basically.
That would
Like,
be kind of cool. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, you can kind of look at it. You can see how their balls are going up and stuff, so you can figure out if they're in a jackpot or not. So based off that, you can say, okay, well maybe I should cast the one that like turns off their balls or something like that. but you don't know like the state of their jackpot. You don't know if they're at the end of it or at the beginning of it. All that stuff. There's not a lot of
Yeah,
information to go on in that
yeah,
regard. So I felt like
and
those skills were not super useful for me most of the time. The ones that actually tactic the player, because just not enough information on what to do with it.
yeah, no, definitely. I would say like the most useful skill was probably for me like just the one that can give you a big hit. There is a concept of different sizes of hits.
Yeah.
So a big hit is going to be like a you know the best basically, but you can get small hits on some machines where like instead of entering the jackpot condition for an extended period of time, you get some sort of smaller amount, either a smaller amount of balls or a smaller amount of time or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good point. Like you can see if the opponent's balls are going up, but you really have no idea. It's like, are they in a small hit or are they in a big hit? But that's interesting in its own way too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with the like, I guess in a lot of ways the appeal is just the concept of it, I think, to me, because like I do think the idea is very cute, but it is like you're kind of having to trust the game that it's not like screwing you over kind of thing.
Yeah,
And that's kind of it's a little challenging because already Pachinko feels a little at times like shaky on like how much control you do or don't have. So it's
yeah,
like, could I have done this any better, or did I just join a version of this that was just already determined that I would lose ahead of time,
yeah.
basically, and I just sat here and wasted my time, kind of thing. But I think if you trust the game, though, I think the way that I kind of look at it is, how what are the chances I am going to get a jackpot? Um, and just having the ability to actually force a jackpot, I do think has like some level of thought to it, because it is like if you're at like a certain range, you can like kind of save your mana until that point and then like get the big hit. So you're like, okay, I'm not going to use this until I got one hit already. And if I use another big hit right after it, I know I'm already going to basically win, kind of thing. So rather than do the big hit at the start and then just pray for the rest of the time, you can just kind of play the game normally until that. I don't know if that's really strategy though. It's just kind of like saving my time, I guess. I'm just like, I'll get there, I guess. I'm just trying. I guess the thing I'm trying to think is like, is there any reason to use a spell for a particular reason that, like, did you ever feel like you were casting spells for a reason beyond just I have the mana time to cast because I can get a big hit?
I did.
Okay, tell me
Absolutely.
about this. Let me know about
Yep. No,
this.
I definitely did. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the first bosses that I used, the skills to beat, because I think the first boss that I beat was pretty easy, and maybe that's another point to make too, is that so for each boss, the number of balls that you need to get increases. So your first boss is going to be like 2,000 balls, I think, or maybe it's even
Mm.
less. It's something like that.
It might be
But
like
then
1,500 or something like that, but yeah.
yeah, and then after that, it's going to be like 2,000 and 2,500 and 3,000, and kind of go up in
Yeah.
that sort of way. Um, so I didn't mess around with this too much, but I do kind of feel like if let's say there's one of the characters that you struggle against their board a bit,
Mhm.
you might be able to play them earlier on in the game and have a little bit of an easier time, so you don't have to play them when you need to get like 4 or 5,000 balls against them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really want to use skills more than I needed to,
Yeah.
but I did feel like on some enemies, I'm like, okay, this character is going to like basically block me every time I get a hit, right?
Yes. Yeah. You get a
And
jackpot and they basically just immediately turn your balls off. And like, all right, cool.
yeah, yep,
And they do it every time. And it's like,
yep,
do you have a limited MP pool or do you not? I don't
yeah.
know what's going on over there.
Um, but I did feel like other bosses kind of had slightly different strategies too, where it's like maybe they were um, I wish I could. I'm not sure if I can really remember the specific example, but I remember a part where it clicked, where I'm like, okay, I think if I use the ability against this character, where I block their balls when
Mm,
they hit or something like that, right? That's actually going to be more benefit to me than if I use other
get
abilities.
your own
So I
jackpot.
did kind
Yeah.
of feel like that with one or two of the bosses that was like a little bit of strategy.
Did you feel like their behavior in general was consistent? Like, were they hitting jackpots? Like, was somebody like getting a jackpot earlier in the game than other characters or anything like that? Like,
Um, Not necessarily. I feel like I remember they would go for a certain amount of time without getting a jackpot. And then invariably, I think they kind of would. And what I assumed is that they were using their um, jackpot, their big hit ability. So you do have to kind of think about like whether you're ahead or behind. Because I feel like some characters, it's like I would have a couple of really close games where um, I would keep just kind of barely hanging on, but they would just either do enough shenanigans or get enough hits that they would, just barely beat me by the end. And, basically that's when, like I felt like I needed to just get some more points, have some more skills at my disposal, and so just use them when I needed to.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but this is something that you might not have encountered. I just used machine translation, but I translated the back of the box,
Mm.
and it actually said on it, the game is made for pachinko players of all skill levels. And it kind of mentioned the fact that like it had these skill abilities that you could use, basically so that like you don't have to play any machines that you don't want to play, that you don't enjoy playing.
That's basically what I did because there was two machines that I could not for the life of me get good at, and I just was
Yep.
like, I'm just gonna skip this one, basically.
Yep.
So, but I will say it's not free. I mean, the big thing is that you have to like farm the MP for this, and if you want to do the skip machine one, it's really long. I'll get into that in a little bit. One thing that I thought was interesting, and I didn't think about this immediately, was when you use the special skills, everyone has like a unique animation. So while every character has like the same 5 skills, they play an FMV basically to show you this character's skill, right? Aesthetically, this game is pretty straightforward overall, visually
It
and stuff
looks
like that.
nice. I like
Off,
the pachinko machines, like how
I
they look.
saw a Japanese review that said the balls move so smoothly. This is true next gen or something like that.
Yep.
Um, but but one thing I noticed because I was talking about this in the Discord a while ago when we were talking about Battle Heat because Battle Heat was doing some weird stuff with FMV, and I think in talking to Aaron, who ran the old PCFX website, I forget what it's called, PC Engine FX.
Yes.
I was wondering if it was doing transparencies, but it wasn't. It just kind of dropped in a different FMV. But this game actually does do an FMV with transparency on it that displays over the board. So
It's
all the
really cool
FMV
looking.
can be seen. Like you can see the FMV, and you can also see the board behind the FMV as well.
Yep.
So I wasn't aware the PCFX could do that. So that
I
was
wasn't
neat.
either. I definitely took note of that because it took me probably happened once or twice before I was like, hey, wait a second,
Yeah.
this is like 50% opacity, like video playing on this. Like, what has that ever happened before? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't think of any other places on the PCFX where I saw that. I think maybe I feel like Zenki has some stuff there, but I feel like it's background stuff, not foreground stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Although actually, I think Zenki does make use of some of the like video for background. So I'm not
mm,
100%, but yeah, it's cool. It's a unique effect.
yeah. So I really like that, and I think that's like the real reward. I mean, besides being able to skip the stage, it's like the real reward for like using these skills. You get a little FMV cut in. Every character has their own unique FMV cut in, and they basically just cast their spells and stuff like that, right? So it's a little something there. And I think the presentation, like I said, this is kind of I think when I was getting back to the presentation thing, it's pretty muted overall. There's some nice stuff with the machines, I will say, and I think as we talk about the individual boards, maybe we'll talk about it a bit more. But it's pretty muted presentation overall, but I think it has a surprising amount of FMV, in the sense of like you start the game, you get a pretty big FMV segment. These powers, every character has 5 of them, and then also each character has their own unique FMV ending, as far as I could tell, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So there's a pretty hefty amount of video in the game. I feel like for what the game is, which is essentially kind of like a fighting game where you choose 8 areas and then there's not a lot of story going on in general. It feels like it's just kind of like, oh, this person's here. Wow. Like at least my character was like, she would just kind of like make an observation about the person she just fought. Basically, she'd be like, oh, your outfit's so cute, kind of thing, right? It wasn't anything super deep, But I thought
Yeah,
that was neat that there was so much FMV for a game that doesn't really have a lot of story going on and stuff like that. But I think
yeah,
it fit well with the theme of the game at the very least. So
yeah. My impression, at least in general, in terms of like effort that was put into this game, I kind of feel like it was like kind of at just the right spot where like they didn't put in too much effort, but they
mhm.
didn't put in no effort, right?
Yeah,
It was kind of like, I mean, they have like all the characters have like their little backstory. Like I think my character would do the frenemies thing a lot, where like, once you beat the boss character, they were like, that girl, she wasn't too bad. I like her. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
when they would beat you finish the battle, they would give you some advice or something like that.
What kind of
It's all
advice
kind of
would they
cute.
give you?
I,
Do you
I don't
remember?
I don't know. No.
Trying to think. Yes, shoot the ball harder.
Right.
I just lost you, but
Yeah, so you mentioned that there are like, I don't know if it is eight, but like eight areas. There's probably eight characters. So
yeah, yeah.
there's an area for each character. You have your own area, and that's actually where you save the game.
Yes,
Um,
that is important to note. Like, look for the if you're playing this game, look for your own area at the start because the game doesn't auto save. So if you die, you lose all your progress,
yeah,
and it's not very clear about you needing to go find your home to save. I feel like at least without. I don't remember there being any text about it in the game, but
yeah. I don't know that it like tells you. I mean,
yeah,
it is one of those games from the era of manuals. So,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, the manual does tell you the general strategy, like the way that each of the pachinko machines plays. It gives you a little bio of each of the characters. And then once you beat all the bosses in the locations, there's a castle that you're blocked off from until you beat all of the areas, and then you can access
yeah.
that for like the
The
last
final
boss.
boss, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I think the one thing that I kind of felt like with this game is like you have these characters up front that we talked about with the FMV stuff, and they have their special skills. But I think the real character of this game is the boards, right? I think in some ways, I don't know how familiar people are with pinball, but I feel like every pinball machine has like some way you want to kind of interact with it, right? Some way you want to kind of shoot for things. And it feels like every machine kind of has its own little gimmick that you kind of have to like mess with. And some of them are like way closer to each other than others, but some of them are pretty far out there in terms of design to the point that like sometimes I'd have no idea how to play a board kind of thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um
What machines did you like?
So I think the machines that I like the most usually, I think you called them the airplane ones earlier, where it's like the wings open on the side. So basically, how this looks like on screen is you have a center area, and then each side of the center area in the board. So there's like the whole pachinko machine is like the ball, like all the pins and the balls and stuff is around there, but in the center there's like a little square, and there's like something happening in there. And so this little you'd have to shoot these holes at the bottom of the field, which would make it so the wings on the doors would open once or twice, depending on the balls you hit there. And then you also had to shoot balls like at an angle so it's also heading towards the top. So when the wings open for like a split second, it's like boot it, and then they close. It is like that. It is super fast. You have to like line up your ball shots in a way that you have both the ball hitting on the bottom and the top at the same time, basically, or around the same time. And then something happens in the center there, and you don't really have control over that thing. But a lot of times, just like the ball needs to hit a certain part of the wall inside this little box it's in, or there might be like a tanuki who's like opening his mouth and he has to time it just right where he eats the ball and stuff like that, right? So I think those kind of machines were probably my favorite because it kind of felt more like something was happening that I had like a little more control over. Like there's multiple places kind of having to hit once, and like the payoff for it was like very clear to me because there's like a little character inside doing some stuff, right? Um, and then if he eats the ball, then it would go and you wouldn't go into jackpot, but you'd play a slot machine
Yep.
with the chance of going into jackpot. So that was kind of the whole thing. The way I was kind of trying describing it to my friends is like pachinko is kind of like playing a game to get the chance to pull a slot machine lever. So with a normal slot machine, it just goes straight to the pull. With pachinko, you have to put money in to try to figure out how to pull the lever. Basically, is basically how I describe it to them. So I do think there's like something there that you have to do. So I think those are probably my favorite kind of boards in there.
You were talking about kind of the two kinds of pachinko video games, right? The ones where it's like
Yeah.
it basically just simulates a machine. Here it is. And then there's the ones that are a little more involved that make it more like a home, video game experience, which I think this is more of. I did just want to mention though, this is just my speculation. I have not read that this is the case, but what I suspect the one where it just is simulating one particular machine, I get the impression that that is actually a way to practice how to play a real machine so that after you get good at your PlayStation 2 game, you can go to the pachinko parlor and you can play it. Because, like we say, some of these machines have some kind of specific things you need to do. And, if you could end up maybe missing out on, making as much money if you're not that familiar with the machine. So instead of having to spend 20, 30, $40 putting money into a machine at the parlor, learning how to play it, you could buy your PlayStation 2 game for 20, 30, $40 and then learn at home and then
Yeah.
actually go play it. That's my suspicion, that that's what is attractive about those particular kinds of games as opposed to something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that loop is here as well, though, because if you go do the boss fight immediately and you don't know how the board works, you're gonna lose. That's just how it's gonna be, right? It's like if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna lose. And that was like part of the hard part of this game initially, is because when I started it, I'm like, I don't know what how to even perform at pachinko, so I just play it and just lose and have no idea what's going on, right? And so
How did you get over? How did you
a
get
lot
over that?
of like I said, I watched YouTube videos before, so I was like, okay, I get the ideas of the things that people are looking for, but a lot of those were for more modern machines, which I mentioned was like I think they're a lot simpler, or at least the ones I was seeing were a lot simpler. These are way more complicated. So it was a lot of like observation, basically. There's little things all over the board. What do they do when I get a ball in here? What happens with that? Does it start a chain reaction? Sometimes you have to go through multiple things to open up a jackpot. It's not just one thing. So I think that was like a big part of it, and it was literally just sitting down and spending time with the board. And I feel like this is kind of like where I was going with is that when you go and play pachinko on your own, it's very much for me is like I'm going to go practice this board kind of feeling. You're also going to get magic points or whatever, or the currency to spend magic. That is the big part of like playing pachinko on its own. But you're not going to get those without learning how to use the board, basically, because otherwise you're just going to kind of sit at the same ball level or like go super slow. Um, so a lot of it was trying to find the boards and experimenting, because it is easy to find the one board that works for you and just say I need MP and just stay on that board. But then you're kind of
That's what
not
I did.
interacting with the rest of the game sometimes. So but
Well,
I was not able to read stuff as much. So I spent a lot more time, I think, just practicing on machines, maybe more so than you, it sounds like, possibly. So
that's a possibility. I mean,
yeah.
because I did realize that I'm like, well, I think reading the back of the box, quote unquote reading, I put it
I
into
didn't have
Google
access
Translate.
to the manual, so I learned pretty much every single one on my own, except for at the very end, I gave up. I was like, Matt, can you send me the manual? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know how this board works.
yeah. Well, I still don't really know the that one board. So I think it's the boy, the one that I mean, you can play it at any point in the game. In fact, it's one of the first boards that comes up when you go to the first location on the top of the board. Um, it's like something bazooka, and so what the goal is, so it's got a whole row of numbers 1 through 16 at the bottom. It's one of the more unique
Yeah.
machines. I
It
still haven't quite figured out how to play it
it looks like an
because
original pachinko machine, like the one you talked about earlier, where you just drop the ball down and you hit in the holes,
yeah,
kind of.
you're just trying to get like a number at the bottom or something. But in this one, what you have to do is you have to get four in a row.
Mhm.
So once I realized that, I was like, okay. But I'm like, is there like a consistent way if I'm like aiming for a certain spot, I can, semi consistently get four in a row? And maybe kind of, but it didn't seem like that was enough, because also there's a thing so the thing in the middle is typically called a generator. At least it
Okay.
was in the book I was reading, how this guy translated it. I think I've also seen it come up as like a gimmick, or maybe an accumulator. I kind of forget, but generator at any rate. And so in the generator, there was a like if you get balls in it, it can loop around, and there's a chance it falls into one of two holes in the back. So if you get
Yeah.
it to fall in the two holes in the back, it'll change some numbers. Wait, was that one, or am I thinking
Yes,
of a
there's a
different?
little number on like the left that's like it would say 1-5, and I
Exactly. Yeah.
still have no idea what that number did.
Yeah.
So,
The best I could tell, it seemed like they were saying that the point of it was to get threes or sevens. So a lot of times in these things too, there's just lucky sevens. You're trying to get particular numbers. I think three is also in general a lucky number too.
yeah, yeah,
Four I know is unlucky because it's like she, which is like death.
yeah,
So a lot of times wouldn't be good, but sometimes it's as simple as that. Um, but I didn't I never quite understood what the like how do you get big hits in it. It
yeah.
never yeah yeah
Yeah,
um,
it's a lot of the machines. I think 3 would be like a lower hit, and then I think 7 would be the big hit, if I recall
yeah
correctly. So
yeah that kind of thing. Um, did you play the Angel's Devil machine at all?
that's the one I farm the most. Yeah,
Okay,
this
that's
machine's a lot.
a fun machine.
That's a fun one. It like it uses the one you mentioned before, like the airplay wing. So in the center, the generator, is that what it's called in all cases, or just that one you're
In
talking
all
about?
cases, yeah.
Um, it has the wing thing, so you hit on the bottom to open up the levers and things like that. There's like a devil in there, and you have to like shoot the ball into his room, and there's like a spot where his foot is that I think you have to drop the ball to, which then rolls the slot machine at the top. You have to get either double threes or double sevens, if I recall correctly, on it.
Yep.
And then and then it opens the other door, the baby side. And so here's the thing I don't really understand. When you shoot the balls into the like the baby just automatically opens and closes the airplane wing. You don't have to actually like open it anymore at that point.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but you do have to like hit the balls in there, and so it counts up a number when you get a ball in there, basically. But
Yeah.
he also has a spot on the floor in the back
Hmm.
that seems to move the number up to the next 10, basically. So
Yep.
if you're at 7, it will take you to 10 if you hit that, and then you get to 11, hit that spot, it'll take you to 20. I don't know if that was a good or a bad thing still. I think one thing I kind of wish about this game in general is like I wish there was just more information of what was giving me balls and how many balls, cuz I just like I know something's happening and I can see the scoreboard going up, but it goes up at a pretty slow pace. And so it's a little hard to know like what am I actively doing to make my score go up, cuz sometimes it'll even
Yeah.
loop over like the jackpot's done and you're still getting the 5 ball payout over and over and over and over again or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Because yeah, it's like it's
it's catching up.
saved them up. It's catching
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. No, I found similarly too. Like my impression was that probably on the Angel side, it's probably bad to get it into that spot because it
Yeah.
probably gets you closer to that closing and it's switching back from the basically the jackpot state to the non-jackpot state again. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't even 100% sure. But
Yeah, basically the
that's
number
a fun
counts up,
machine.
and then if you get to 150, which I think is represented just as 50 once it loops over,
Yeah.
then the baby closes the door basically, and
Yeah.
then you have to do the whole thing again. So,
Yeah.
but that was probably the one I had the most consistent earnings on for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I think that's a fun thing about this game is that like it does, like I said, after reading the back of the box, I was like, I think they intend for this to be, basically a relaxing play as much as you want, learn the machines as much as you want, kind of relatively laid back pachinko game that's kind of like, if you're good, if you're experienced with pachinko, you can approach it a certain way, and if you're less experienced with a pachinko, you can approach it a certain way, and like both sorts of people can have fun. I ended up having to learn the Playboy machine. I don't know
yeah.
if you played that at all.
So
Um,
I don't know if they line up, but for me, I believe that was the final boss machine for me.
was it okay? Because
Okay.
what I assumed is that it might be my personal character's machine, and I wanted to ask you because I assumed that yours was different. But so yours was also Playboy.
Playboy. Yeah, it's this
Interesting.
guy in the back, and he's like he's like in a club or something, and he's wearing
Yep.
sunglasses on.
Okay. Yeah, you have to play that then.
I
Learn that one.
That's a hard machine to learn. I
It's weird.
couldn't. I mean, I knew it was happening, this is one of the ones where it's like very hard because like sorry, I remember right. There's a little tulip at the bottom. You shoot in there. That opens a gate at the top, which lets you shoot the ball in there, which has a lever. And if the ball like falls in the lever properly, it goes to the bottom. And if that bottom rolls a 3 or a
A
7,
3 or a
it
7. Yep.
opens up the right side of the machine
And
where
that's,
you
yep.
put the balls in a thing that says in, but there's only certain number of balls you can put in there, and you have to keep opening it with this other gadget. It is probably the most complicated machine in the game. It probably is the one that should be the final boss of the game. But like I played that machine for hours. I was playing, so I couldn't get this game to run on my PCFX very well. I think it's because it's streaming audio all the time. My PCFX disk drive is not having it basically. So I
Okay,
played
yep.
on emulator, and the final bosses happens after one of the fights. Like the final boss is a 2-fight wave thing, and I was kind of done with this game at that point. I was like, I'm gonna save state here and try to finish this. Just run through it. I don't have enough MP left and any of that stuff, right? And then I played it for like 3 hours praying, and I could not get it to work. And I tried it multiple times. I went back, learned the machine. Once I figured it out, went back to it again. I couldn't do it. And this is like one of the things I'm not certain about because so you mentioned before how you like kind of look for the machine that is paying out for the day, right? I feel like this is true of this game as well because basically when you go to play Pachinko without fighting somebody, you can choose from a set of machines at each location, right? So each location has 4 different types of machines and then 3 of each of those.
Yes.
And so you just play it for a little bit. And if you know what the machine's doing, you can already kind of like position yourself in a way that you should be scoring regularly. And you can kind of figure out pretty quick of whether you're going to be scoring or not, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I've rolled this thing sometimes. And you go and move to a different machine. I don't know in the case of the actual like fights, the boss fights, if there's something like that as well, where it's just like this instance of this machine is just bad.
I assumed that is not the case.
Okay.
I think the game is more fair than that, and there is an element of luck. I think so.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
when you're fighting the bosses, like there's just an element of luck. But I feel like when you get hits, you're kind of more apt to get big hits than small hits. I feel like you're kind of more apt to like kind of get hits consistently and things like that, right? And I think the fact that you have your skills and abilities to kind of like mix in there, because part of me is like, well, is it really fair that we're using these skills to win these games and not just like letting like basically getting lucky, right? Like should we be letting luck win us these games? But your opponent is using their abilities against you all the time. Like there's no boss that is not going to use their abilities against you. So I feel like it's all fair, basically. I think it's part of the fun.
Yeah. The biggest challenge with bringing magic into that fight is because it's a 2-tiered fight, and some of the bosses in the game, if not all of them, will drain your MP, basically.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out. I'm still not quite sure what the mechanic is for it, but an ability or it might just be a penalty for like when they get far enough ahead of you. I haven't quite figured it out, but
yeah, I wish it wasn't there because it is sometimes like I'm gonna save this for like this part or this fight or something like that. At least in that 2-tiered fight, it's like I want to save this because this is the harder part. Then you get to the part and it's like, oh, I have no MP
all
left
of
because
my
the last
MP
boss just drained it. I didn't use it.
Yeah.
It's just they just drained it.
They
so
just
it's
sucked
like
it away.
Yeah, so a lot of times it's just like I just gotta spam it basically. But I do think there's a lot of appeal to like machine shopping, if you want to call that, I guess. Like it is kind of fun to like go around and like go to all the different places and be like, okay, how's this machine doing? And I feel like at some point you played that other Pachinko game you played had like pin zoom ins where you could zoom in on the pins.
Yes.
And so you could basically kind of read the direction that the ball would fall based off that. So you could go look at the machine, look at how the pins are bent, and so you can kind of like get an idea of like how balls will fall. I think you said you didn't feel like that was a part of this game, right?
That's right.
I kind of feel like it might be.
Well, it might be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't zoom in on the pins, that's for sure. Or I'm almost certain you can't. But there's a lot of times where I'd go to a machine and it seemed like the pins were set up in a way that the balls, even though I'm in the same spot as usual, will never go into the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
I
that
think you
there
still
are
have to find
pins, yeah.
the good machines. Yeah.
So it is kind of cute to like have to go around and like find like, okay, are the balls falling fine? All right. And then also what are the jackpots coming? But then also it's like sometimes when you're on your like sixth machine, you're like, please, dear God, be the one. Please be the one. I just want to grind some currency basically. But I think that's like that is kind of the part of the appeal basically, is like kind of finding the machine that will, work for you for at least grinding currency and stuff like that, or MP. I don't know what to call it. I've called it MP normally because I'm like that's what it's for, because you make magic points out of it. There's no
Yeah.
money usage in this game otherwise.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's technically money you spend for spells and stuff like that, but I don't know how they translate or like how the text actually presents it. But
Yeah.
um,
I think technically it comes up as points. I think it's like PT, but yeah. Yeah. So how long would you say you played this game?
so this is the interesting question part. So when I first started, I think I was moving pretty briskly. And I was really enjoying like trying all the boards out, and I was like really having a good time. But then I got to I put off that one board, the bazooka one that with like had the things on the bottom to get four in a row that you couldn't really figure out.
Yeah. I'm a
I
little
put that one off
frustrated. I still couldn't figure that one out. But
to the very end basically. I was just like, I don't know how this board works. I'll come back to it. And then I was on the, the hardest version of that, and I was like, okay, well, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. So, I don't know how this was for you, but I would say I could maybe grind, let's say like 300 MP per hour. It's
yeah.
about right for me.
Yep. That sounds about right.
To beat the board, it's about 1,700 MP.
Yep.
So it is very much you committing to, I'm not going to play this board, but also I'm going to spend the next like 4 or
I'm going
5
to grind
hours like
points.
getting enough points. And
It's more than twice as much as any of your other abilities.
yes. I think the like jackpot I think is 400 or 700, somewhere in that range. It's still pricey, but it works really well. And if you know how to play the board, it's helpful. But if you get a jackpot and you still don't really know how to play the board, like it only does so much, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I did that towards the end of the game. I was like, I'll skip past this one. And then I went to the final boss. And the first phase of the final boss was very easy. And then, as I told you, I struggled with the second phase a lot. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll just grind out some MP, bring it into the second phase. Because I know how this board generally works. I just can't seem to get the jackpots that I need, basically,
Yeah.
is my
Yeah.
feeling.
That's what I ended up doing.
But then the first boss like drained all my MP
Yeah.
all the time. And then so I was like, okay, I'm going to just grind out like enough points to
Did you auto win both of them?
well, the initial intention was to auto win the first one and bring the MP into the second fight when I had
Sure.
it was still
Yep.
a lot of MP because I was basically having to grind, would that be like 5 to 10 hours or something like that? And that because I
Yeah.
need the MP to actually finish the first fight, and then I also need enough MP to do the jackpots. And I think I paid for 2 jackpots and still could not win the second phase. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. And then I was just like, whatever. I'm just gonna grind out. So I think I spent like probably at least half the game, if not more, just grinding MP to finish the game. And so like I would say, I
Grinding
feel
for
a
the
little
final
bad because
boss.
I feel like I'm coming off as like very like with this game, but it
Mm.
was a very the end experience of that game for me was just like, oh my lord. Just like I gotta sit here and grind. And like I said, I think it's fun like learning the boards and things like that. So I had a good time up front a lot. And I just wish that I had better knowledge of like how some of these boards function, which is why I kind of asked you for the scan so I could look at the Playboy one, is what it's called, right?
Sure. Yep.
And I feel like I read the scan. I was like, this sounds like how the board works. Like, I think I got everything, but like, it felt like every time I sat down to play, I just like could not succeed on it. Even when I'd play it in, on its own, I would not get a lot of payout like at all.
Yeah.
Because really,
I wonder if you weren't really quite triggering the big hits when you could get them. It is a little bit of an annoying board. I think I wrote down notes for myself for like a couple of them. So
yeah,
like on Playboy, I would shoot for like basically 27 to 29 power
That sounds
to
all right.
in order to like basically just have the best chance of getting that dumb ball to drop into that thing and just to get like a 7 or a 3, and that's just like pulling teeth. But if you can do it, then honestly, what I did, I didn't even really need to write it down. At the end, I could just crank it up to 99
Yeah, you
because you
just
want to get as many balls as you can over there. So I mean, it sounds like you were doing it right. So
yeah, because like the big thing, I think the big challenge for me was the thing that opened the gate was really far away from the
hmm,
actual gate, and so you have
yeah,
to kind of like shoot the balls in a way where like comes up,
some of them need to go in
hits the
there.
gate, and then rolls back down and
Yep.
bounces down the pins to land
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of tricky to
yeah, and
get it
so
to really. Yeah.
in addition to farming all that MP, I probably spent at least 5 hours sitting on that board trying to make it work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was just such a bad way to end that game.
Yeah.
It was
That's
just
too
like
bad. It's too
I
bad
was just like,
because it's like,
which I was wondering if you suffered as much as I did at the end because that was the part of the game that really started to break me.
yeah,
So,
I suffered, but I don't think as much.
yeah,
But I did,
but
I
I don't know if I was
played.
just missing something. That was the thing. It's like I don't know if I'm missing something.
Yeah,
So
I think I do have the impression because I did manage to get through the first state. Well, actually, I think I managed to maybe get through both phases of the game without it stealing any of my MP from me at some points. So
mm,
I do sort of feel like whether it's luck or whether it's maybe just keeping ahead of the opponent enough, like that you don't maybe for whatever reason it doesn't have a chance to trigger your like MP steal. I thought that maybe I could get through the game with like one big hit, and then I realized, oh, there's two phases. So I think I saved up enough for two big hits. And even that, I was struggling a little bit. So I saved up a little more. So I had enough for like two big hits and one of the ones where you block the other character's
yeah,
balls. And that was enough for me to finish the game. So,
yeah,
um, but I probably put 20 to 25 hours into the game, I would say, just to beat
okay,
it once with one character.
yeah. I
Like
think
at least 20. I think 20 hours is probably a good. So I don't know how many hours you feel like you put in, but it there's it, I want to say there's content there, but like some of it is grinding. But I felt like for me, I felt like the difficulty was fair and it was enjoyable.
yeah,
Even the last boss for me, I think I had to do it. I think 5 times.
okay,
Um, so that was, I think when you hit a boss, if you do it one time and you beat it, that's too easy. If you have
yeah.
to do it like 2 or 3 times to beat it, I feel like that's fair. And then when you get into like 4 and 5 and 10 and 20, like you're getting a little.
It kind of depends on the game, right?
It
Because
depends
like
on the game.
if
Like
it's
if
a
it's the
short
final
boss fight
boss,
or something like
like
that.
yeah,
Because I definitely played games where like the fights maybe like 2 minutes long, but do it like 30 times. It's not that long at the end of the
yeah,
day. Like spend an hour on it or something like that. So, but yeah, I think that's like the big thing for me. I feel like there's like something I'm missing about the game, but like I kind of feel like I got everything. Like it sounds like everything I'm saying aligns with what you're saying. So it's
yeah,
just like I still
yep,
don't know what I'm missing. It's why it was so hard. So one thing I did consider was like maybe there's like an RNG that's like set ahead of time. So if I'm using a save state, I'm ending up at a certain type of RNG where they are
oh
likely to win more essentially. Because that's when
yeah,
I was just trying to get through and beat it that way. I was like, maybe I have an RNG that's not going to let me get bingo or not bingo, uh, jackpots and stuff like that. That's why I kind of backed off from that because I was just like, I may be in save stating this, creating a problem that I wouldn't normally have.
it's a
But
possibility. Yeah,
yeah, but I went to it played. I will say, like to some extent, I like that I played on emulator because I think the game functioned very well. Otherwise, like I don't really have any. The only time I had a problem was for that last run on MP, I was like, I can't play this at normal speed anymore, or I'd set it at 2x.
there
And
you go.
the audio started breaking a little bit, I will say. But otherwise, before I started doing weird stuff, it like played really well, I think, on RetroArch specifically. I just have like kind of the default setup for RetroArch, nothing fancy. So
Yeah, yeah,
so I think if you do want to play this on emulator, it'd be good. And I think that the mindset of like this is a relaxing thing is good, because I think up front, I'm more of somebody who likes to solve puzzles most of the time. I think that's why the board solving was so much more interesting to me. Then, the actual playing afterwards is like something that is a little, if you actually have, I don't want to get into it. I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 right now on the side, and this is part of the problem with 14 for me. Is like I like solving puzzles more than I like refining, I guess. But it is something that, like, I think I had a little trouble with Pachinko because I would have to find something else to make my brain happy, basically, whether it be watching something or doing something else. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. Like, I think a lot of people have some tactile thing they're doing while they watch something else or engage with something else. But it does feel like at some point that, like, I'm not really paying attention to Pachinko. It's just kind of there in the background. And I'm not sure if the appeal is at that point is just clearing content without, in the case of a video game, clearing content without having to really put any thought into it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, at a Pachinko parlor, I think it is a bit different, but I don't know. The other thing as well is that, like, when I think about going to a Pachinko parlor and doing it, you're probably just there staring at it, and it's probably a good time to just be in your thoughts, right? I do this when, like, driving
You're
and stuff
away
like
from
that.
work, you're away from
Yeah.
the house, you're away from the kids, and yeah.
And so Pachinko, I imagine, like, I think if I were to sit down and say, I'm not going to engage with anything else, I'm just going to sit in front of the CRT and play Pachinko, basically, I could definitely see an appeal to that. I'm just, like, going to turn my brain off for a little bit. So,
Yeah.
especially if
I
you know the
think
mechanics.
I feel bad saying that, like, the thing that really helped me, like, enjoy this game was having YouTube videos on while I was doing it. But when you're grinding those, that stuff, it was really nice. I was like, what is it? Just to really date this video, Silent Hill F had
Mm.
just come out, so I put on streams of people playing Silent Hill F, and then I kind of watched them play that while I was, like, playing Pachinko, and
Yeah.
it was weirdly, it was weirdly relaxing. I kind of enjoyed it.
I don't want to, like, poo-poo that too much, because I feel like generally that's, like, an acceptable way at which we do it. We all do it with something. I feel like where we're just like,
Sure.
here's this thing I'm just gonna, like, mess with in the background while I do something else, right?
Yeah. It's a little weird though.
People call them podcast games usually.
Yeah.
They get called. So,
Yeah.
but I don't really listen to podcasts as much anymore. So I think the thing that I kind of got out of playing this game, for me at least, is a respect for Pachinko. Because I feel like this is the thing that always happens with this kind of stuff. Is like, it's so easy to say, like, nothing matters here. It's just a gambling game or something like that. And I feel like anytime I take a time to sit down and, like, look at one of these games, it's usually like, oh, there's a little something happening here. I learned a lot playing this game. That was the big thing.
Mm.
And I felt like I got a lot of satisfaction on learning a lot of playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, can I ask? Because I think when I mentioned that I wanted to play this game, I think my motivation was really, like, what's the difference between, like, the first game that I played and this one? And I just wanted to play a little more Pachinko because, that first game that I played was fun. But when I mentioned it to you, I feel like you were also like, oh, yes, gambling. I want to try that. What do you think? Like,
Oh, yes, gambling. I want to try that. I like
well,
putting it that way.
you kind of come from the land of gambling, so I'm
Yes,
sure
I
if you really
technically
want to
am.
try it. But yeah, no. What do you think drew you to the game, and did you get out of it what you were looking for? I guess.
So I think with gambling, it's one of those things that, like, I think me. I mean, I think PCFX Fan Club falls into this as well. Is that, like, if I find something that seems like the things that are being said around it don't line up quite right, I'm kind of interested in it. So we can say, oh, these gambling games don't have any value. They're not good for anything. They're just garbage, all that stuff. But
They're
then you
just
go
the
and look at an
$1 bargain
import
bin.
game bargain bin. Clearly, people were buying these things.
Yeah.
You don't produce the number of these and the quantity of these if there wasn't an audience for it, right? And what are they getting out of it, right? And yeah, I have this, like, issue with gambling specifically where, like, I don't really understand how gambling works. This is one of those things that, like, when I'm, like, asking people to explain, like, very basic, like, human feelings, it feels like sometimes of just, like, what satisfaction do you get out of gambling? Because obviously gambling has, like, these peaks and lows and things like that, and the tension, and like how does, when you're playing, when you're gambling, how does putting money into it alter the experience, right? Because that's part of it. And then video games have this weird thing where they don't have money you're putting into it. I did not give Pachio-kun any of my money, so I don't have a copy of it either. So technically, I guess the money I spent on it was burning the CDR basically, for it. And so it's like, what is the appeal? Because gambling, so much of gambling seems built around the money aspect. So when you take the money out, why buy this? Why engage with this?
You paid in your blood.
Yeah. My time.
Your aggravation.
So I think that's like one of the questions that I end up asking with gambling games. And I don't have a ton of experience with gambling games. Weirdly enough, I think like the DLC for Final Fantasy 13-2, which is a like gambling specific DLC, might be the best point of like comparison I have for something like this, because that's kind of the only thing I've done. Which is, I think that's kind of like a narrative gambling game as well. I don't want to get into it too much because it's a Final Fantasy 13 thing, but there's a story to it, right? And so you're like learning about these characters, and you're essentially trying to gamble your way out of a dimension you're stuck in. You're stuck in this dimension because gambling broke the dimension, because it's Final Fantasy 13 too. It's about a space time travel game kind of thing. So, and it's like Final Fantasy games are a little ridiculous in their own ways, but that's kind of part of the fun of that era of Final Fantasy at the very least. But yeah, I think I was just kind of like trying to figure out like, what is the appeal of this? And I think the thing I kind of feel like is I don't really get the dopamine rush maybe of like hitting the slots right. I think so. One thing to actually maybe talk about here is that like, I don't like feeling manipulated very much. Pachinko feels like built on manipulating you in terms of like, they're gonna show the slots show up, and they're gonna like stop two of them on the same symbol. Then the last one's gonna roll very slowly, and then it's going to get to the one you need, hang there for a second, and then go to the next one and be like, nope, sorry. And, you know, it's this feeling of like this thing that's supposed to feel like random chance is being controlled by something else. And not only being controlled by something else, but also trying to tease you into saying, you are almost there.
Yeah, like
you
psychologically
almost got there.
Manipulate you into spending more money, basically.
Which in the context of Pachio-kun doesn't really matter. In the context of gambling, maybe a little different, but you know, and I think I think I get more frustration out of it than pleasure when that happens.
Sure.
But that's kind of why I really want to emphasize though, is that like, I thought learning the boards were fun. That was the big thing. And that was the part of the game I enjoyed. And then, so once I've solved the board, I didn't have as much fun, but I think it was like fine, right? Like I said, I was like doing other stuff while playing, and it was okay. But I think that was part of why it was so frustrating with the boards that I couldn't learn, because I'm just like, I don't know. I have no idea what to do next, and I have no other resources to recommend, like look at anymore. That's why I went to you. Like, please just send me a picture of your manual so I can try to figure out what's going on. I don't know what's happening anywhere. And I don't really feel like I learned that much from that manual, unfortunately, for the things I was trying to solve. It's just like, okay. Yeah. But I do think I understand that slot machine aspect is appealing. And I think the way I talked to like a Las Vegas journalist here, and he said it was very much about like the increasing tension, basically. He's like, it is when you, and especially the more money you put in, the higher the tension kind of thing. And that's something I can relate to. I play a lot of like, I guess, shooters that are a little bit more competitive at times. And like, the shooters that increase tension higher are the ones I tend to like more, because you're in a very tense situation that you have to get out of, basically. And I think in some ways gambling could maybe be a similar thing in that regard. I don't know. Do you feel like you get anything out of the slot machine stuff? Like, I feel like that's the part of it where I internally just don't resonate with. So it's hard for me to like recognize without transplanting another experience on top of that for me.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, and maybe it's one of the reasons why, because I kind of like the airplane machines too, and that those are basically what I would play to grind, points in the game. And it might just, I mean, it's hard because that Tanuki one actually does have a slot machine element to it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, that one, because the scoring mechanism is technically kind of complicated, by the time you get to the point of like reels spinning, you've won something. right?
Yeah.
I think you could get X, which would mean like the wings would only open for like one round. But if you got, heart or diamond or club or spade, it would be like 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. And then if you got V, it's sort of like victory zone, and you've got a whole bunch
I think it's like
of
15 or something like
15 or
that.
something,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. So that was fun, and I don't think I would necessarily go after the machines that are, because there's some that are basically just slot
Yeah.
machine, pachinko machines, and yeah, like I think the one with like the hero and the dragon there,
Yeah.
like I played that a little bit, but I was just like, you can bank spins. So you'd be banking spins. You can bank up to 4 spins. So you're basically trying to just get as many spins as you can, but you're just sitting there waiting for the spins,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But
I
uh,
feel like those machines are more relevant to like what I've seen in modern machines, which I would say like novelty machines. They feel like they are more show than they are strategy kind of thing.
yeah,
Like I mean it's not like there's no like full motion video playing. This is kind of things that I thought was kind of weird about these machines because it feels like it should be this presentation when you get a jackpot
yeah,
where they have this
no, it's a
screen
good point.
and
Yep,
it's a bunch of little sprite art. It's very cute sprite art, and there's a lot
yeah,
of it. And there's also the other machines like this is like a Space Wars game where two ships kind of fly up and start shooting each other, but they're pretty cute, simple graphics. But I feel like once you've seen it kind of once, like that's kind of the appeal of the machine.
yep,
And otherwise, I would say it's also a good machine for I don't want to engage with this mechanic right now. So if you want to have a machine that has no mechanics on it, I
yeah,
just want to stay at 39 power the entire time and just leave it there. Just tap it. That might be a good option for that. Not that like pachinko on these other machines are super demanding otherwise, but you don't have to like sit there and go, I'm going to shoot from one low powered state to a high powered state, depending on the situation I'm in, kind of thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and I think, I mean, some of that might have to do with just the age of the game. Because I was thinking back, I'm like, all right, so we're talking 1995. I'm like, I don't know that it was that economical to put, you know, um, sophisticated displays into these kinds of machines yet.
yeah.
You used to have stuff like dot matrix displays that you would have in like pinball machines and stuff like that. And I'm kind of surprised that none of these had more sophisticated like dot matrix displays.
There's at
But
least one with like an actual like it's the cherry blossom one that has like a full dot matrix slot machine
okay.
on it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point. I think I did see that.
That's a
Um,
very nice. I will say all these machines, sprite art wise, look very nice. I
they
think.
do. The
Um,
music, unfortunately, you do have to listen to like 10-second, loops. But the music is decent too. It's not too bad. I kind of liked the ending boss theme. That was like kind of pretty relaxing.
oh yeah, that it was weird because it's the first phase of the end boss, and it's
Yeah,
like very chill music, and it's also the Tanuki board, which is a very chill board. So when you
yeah,
get to the final boss, you're like, "What is going on? This is not
yeah,
very final bossy." And then
yeah,
you get to the one with the Playboy one, you're like, "Oh my
yeah.
god!" Afterwards, I think the
You got
save
me.
screen music in particular is really good. You don't stay on there very long, but I think it's a really good song.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
haven't seen if anybody's ripped the music from this game yet, but I need to go find it.
yep,
But when it comes to the actual boards, yeah, it is like maybe 10 to 20-second loops, unfortunately.
yep,
Like
yep,
for a screen you're sitting on super long, it feels like it should be a little more lengthy. I guess I would
yeah,
maybe want something a little closer to like that one card game, Tokimeki Card Paradise, where it's like a very chill background theme, user interface music in like the 90s if they could put in like an interactive CD and it's like the most chill song on a menu for some reason. You're like, all right. I don't that's
yeah.
a bad way to describe it, but
I feel like Japanese video game music. There's like a special kind of like really fun, catchy but chill, like relaxing
yeah.
vibe that like they can really capture in a lot of even like games that are not super high production or high budget or anything like that. Like we're frequently treated to nice tunes.
Yeah. What do you think you learned the most from this game? Like out of the because you said you wanted to kind of see the differences, and I don't know, I don't remember if you quantified that really much.
Sure. No, I didn't. I did learn something. I mean, so I think the main thing was I kind of wanted to know if I would miss that aspect of checking the pins,
Yeah.
because what I read was that they would actually have people who would physically go in every night after the parlor closed, and they would like adjust the pins with a hammer, and they would then test out the machines and like basically just adjust so that, you know, okay, this machine runs a little hot, this machine runs a little cold, and sort of get everything laid out so that they're going to make money the next day and not get screwed over, but also so that, some of the machines are forgiving enough that people are going to come and play them and have fun with them and make some money. In this, I feel like I didn't miss that because it's not that hard to, like, when there's only three of one machine in one place, to just play all three machines until you find one that seems to be paying out for you
Yeah.
well enough, right? So that was fine. And I think, kind of like you, I had the most fun like learning the machines, and especially because the intricacies of them come out the more you play them too. So sometimes you basically get how they work, but then as you've played them for an hour, you start to go, oh, I see how this is giving me this little bit of feedback, or I see how many balls I'm getting, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the old game too had this concept of playing out a machine. So the machines would be loaded with balls, and they would only have whatever 2,000 balls in them. So you would win the machine when you got all the balls, and that was it. And then you'd have to move on to a different machine. So this one not having that was weird at first, but then I kind of realized, oh, what you can do is you can pick a machine that you really like, and you can just keep playing it. So that's kind of what I did when I was like, hey, I want to grind out points, just sit down for an hour or two or three or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when I get a good machine, it's hard to step away because it's like, I want all this MP and I don't want to look for another machine again when I log in. Because I would try to play in like small chunks usually, but I think when you find the good machine, it's like, oh, because it can take you a while to find the good machine if you don't like 100% know like what good performance is on a machine yet. You're just sitting there like, okay, I'm going to spend like maybe 10 minutes on this one. Am I up at all? Am I down? All that kind of stuff. So,
but yeah, once I kind of figured that out, and I mean, I played it over 3 days, and I put in like 6 to 8 hour days. Like one of the days might have been a 10-hour day on this game, and maybe the other two were like 2 6s or something. But I was glad that like the Pachinko formula kind of still worked in a game in 1995, and I read something that kind of implied that maybe you got sort of some pinup shots of the characters when you beat the game. So I wasn't sure if there was a little bit of that aspect to it too, but there didn't seem to be. Like when I beat it with my character, like they're pretty characters, but it was more just like an FMV, and she was like, each of the characters has like a wish that they want fulfilled. Hers was kind of weird. Like she ended up like getting transformed, it seemed like, into like a younger version of herself, or like a chibi version or something. And she was like hanging out with like that guy character. And I didn't quite catch all of the, like the
dialogue.
nuance of the dialogue. Yeah. It was all voiced. And, but yeah, it seems like, there's a different ending for each of the characters. I could see that being fun to unlock, but it's more, I think it's like how much gameplay do you want to get out of your Pachio-kun FX? Is 20 hours enough? Is it going to take you 20 hours to, play each of the 8 characters? But it probably wouldn't take you that long, but it's not much shorter.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like I picked that first character on the list because I was like, oh, there's multiple characters. I'll play multiple of them and see what happens. But yeah, once I realized what I was in for, it's like, we're not playing this again.
You're not going to 100% it like First Kiss Story.
I would love to, Like, that's at the end of the day, like, because, I don't know how many other people in the world have, like, actually given this time, or in the, like, English speaking audiences, how many people
Yeah,
have
yeah,
given this the time we have. And so it's always nice to be like, oh, well, we kind of saw everything, right? We got to see how each of these characters played out. Maybe there's some bonus thing. Maybe that's the pinup thing, is when you beat it with all the characters, you unlock a
could
pinup
be.
gallery or something like
Sure.
that,
Yeah. Who
right?
knows what happens when you cleared
And
all
it'd
the
be
characters?
great to know that, just because it's like, who else is gonna find that out, right? But yeah, I think I realized as I was getting towards the end of the game, I was like, I'm not gonna see another ending. I think you hadn't like fully committed by the time I was getting towards the end yet. And I was like, please play another character because I need to know, and I'm not gonna go look. So
Yep. Yep.
um one thing that I kind of wish, because I don't know if you went into the competitive mode of the game at all, where you went into like the outside the story mode. There's just like a general play against somebody kind of
Yep.
thing.
I don't think I did. No.
Um One thing that I liked about this, and this is kind of takes away from the like having to earn the MP in the main mode, is that you just gained MP while playing that board, because it is just kind of like you're going to join the board,
Yeah.
and then that's just kind of it. It
Okay.
would have been nice that, like, even if you didn't get like maybe as much MP, that like you would at least get something by playing the board normally. But
Yeah. In the main game, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I played a little bit of that, and that's how I kind of went to go look at the other characters' moves and things like that, and also just get a look at some of their like FMVs and things like that as well, because I was kind of curious, what kind of things they were doing with that stuff. So I didn't look at all of them or record all of them or anything like that. But I was just kind of futzing around with that mode a little bit. But it's just like a free play mode, but the other characters on the other side. But it's the same as the main story. So, like I said, I don't really feel like I had a lot of like input on like what was success or not when I was fighting against somebody else, beyond just knowing the board in the first place and having MP available, basically. So, but it sounds like you were able to find a combination for the last boss, at least with the reducing their ball gain stuff, and then also getting your two bingos right. So, and that was different from how I handled it, which was just auto win it. So,
Well, I mean,
but
I do feel like that is I maybe for the last boss, it's the I can see how that definitely takes away a lot of the
yeah.
enjoyment. But I think for any of the other bosses, that is an intended like way of playing the game. If you need to, if you like,
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I don't want to play this board.
Technically, you don't
You
have to
can
fight
skip it.
any bosses if you
It's
don't
true.
want
Yep.
to. Just
You just have
grind.
to grind out 40 hours of gosh,
Probably more than 40.
probably.
Because it's 1,700 each, and
Yeah,
that's maybe that works out. But yeah, it was
yeah,
yeah. But it's I'm really glad I played it. I'm really glad you brought it up, and I thought it was like a good experience, and I learned a lot. Like I said, but I do feel like my ultimate conclusion is that, like, I don't know if I want to play another Pachinko game again in the rest of my life. Um,
that's not the
but
conclusion I want you to come to.
well, no, I think that was like the feeling of like, I don't know what I would get out. Like, maybe I shouldn't say it that way.
Yeah,
I don't know what I would need to play another Pachinko game right now. Um, but what it did do is it did make me more interested in, I think, pinball. Because I
okay.
feel like pinball is something I don't understand. And I
Hmm.
feel like it matches a lot of like what was happening in Pachinko, as somebody who
Sure.
has not played pinball. And I
Yep.
was like, maybe I would enjoy that a little bit more, because not only is it a solve the puzzle of what you need to do, but also execution as well, right? Where I have control over what's happening in the back half versus just kind of waiting for the thing to happen, kind of thing. Um, but I do think Pachinko is kind of fun. I think it deserves more respect than it gets, for sure. But I think when I think about the post learning the board part of Pachinko, I don't think I like it very much, unfortunately, because it's just like weird teasing and just waiting, basically, to hopefully get your thing. But I know that sounds kind of negative, but I think that's just kind of like where I'm at with it. But again, I'm glad I played it.
Yeah.
I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
But
I'm,
yeah,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
I
I'm
think if
glad to
you
hear
have
that.
not played Pachinko and you're curious, I think this is a cute game to look at as well.
Yeah.
Just know you're
Yeah.
gonna have to
Definitely.
jump through some hoops to like. You have to commit time to it. It's not something you're gonna turn on and just immediately know how to enjoy. I feel like.
Yeah.
is kind of what it is.
Yeah. And it might help a little bit to like, yeah, look up some general strategies on Pachinko
Yeah.
games, and like, if you can get access to the manual, the pages about each of the individual machines, that at least helps.
Yeah.
um, I think we just machine translated those. Had I taken the time, like that one board that, yeah, neither of us ever really figured out exactly how to score on, like if I'd taken the time to like translate that by hand, probably it would have,
Yeah.
like we could figure it out maybe better. But I didn't put that much effort into it. It was easier for me at that point to just be like, okay, I can, I'll grind out some more points and
Yeah.
just finish
You're
it.
talking about the bazooka one with
Yeah, yeah.
the slots at the bottom. I think what I would be interested if I were to like approach this again is better understanding like what the appeal of the scoring part is. That's what I was saying earlier, that like I think I have to just kind of map another experience onto it, and I don't know if that's true or not, right? Like the
Mm,
tension basically.
yeah,
I don't know if Pachinko has that same thing of like just watching the slots and then like, oh, I'm going to win big, and then the money matters in that or not. Because
yeah,
even with the other machines you mentioned earlier, just like the idea of like learning a machine at home, like at
yeah,
that point, I feel like learning the machine is the appeal of the PS2 like board only one
yeah,
where like you're gonna replica, right?
yeah.
Like I guess I'm just trying to figure out like if I actually answered my question or if I just better understand my question of what the appeal of these things are. That
Yeah,
might be the real answer. Is like I don't feel like I'm quite there yet and I don't know where to go next. I think might be what it is. That might be what I'm really feeling, actually. Looping back to therapy, a lot of times I'm realizing the things I'm saying don't actually mean what I'm saying. It is some
okay,
other thing that's bothering me, and like it comes out a different way. And I think that might be it. Is like it's not that I don't like the game in the back half. It's just I don't understand what's happening
sure.
still.
Yeah,
And I don't, and I'm not saying that more is happening per se. I guess
yeah,
it's tough for me to know what the appeal of that part is, and I don't know who I would go to ask for that. I guess
right. Yeah.
other than a person who actually gambles.
It almost sounds like in some ways has similar appeal to fishing, let's say. Like,
Yeah, I could see that.
people always kind of say it's like, yeah, whether you catch a fish or not, that's not really as important as just kind of like enjoying the peace and quiet
The
and the
moment, yeah,
process, right? Yeah. So to a certain extent, I kind of feel like there's a bit of that. And then, get hooking a fish is kind of like getting a big hit. And I do, though. I did feel like I remember I just sort of flipped off like a couple of the bosses when I beat them, because I was just like, yeah, take that. I finally got you, you know. And it's funny, like it's not, because it isn't. It's like a little skill and a little luck, but sometimes it kind of feels like skill. I think even when it's luck, I think that's maybe some of the allure and the danger of
yeah.
gambling.
I used to have a coworker who'd be like, "Okay, you got to go to this casino on this day and sit in this seat, and this is the machine that's gonna pay out on that day."
Yep.
And I'm like, "You sound like a conspiracy theorist. I don't know what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying to me and why." And maybe that's like painted my feelings on it to some extent as well. I was like, "Can I
sure.
actually have control over my winnings?"
Yeah,
Pachio-kun FX does not care, but the actual pachinko parlor very much cares about that because
yeah,
you will take their money. So
yeah,
Pachio just wants you to have a good time in a pachinko style, I think. But I think I'm happy with it overall, like I said. So I'm
yeah,
very glad I played it. And I think again, I think if anybody in the audience like thinks it sounds kind of interesting, I think it's worth, if you don't beat it, at least get through maybe like the first 4 or 5 encounters, maybe, if you're gonna get. I think that's like a plenty amount of time to figure out like, am I learning the boards? Because I think by the time you're around there, you'll have to have at least learned a board to defeat a boss, basically.
yeah, yeah,
So, and if you're stuck and like me, because there's definitely times when I was playing this where I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, I have no idea what to do. Like I'm on the third boss, and like like sometimes you start like blaming the game, like it's such a stupid game. I can't take it. But then you're like, it's like, no, you just don't understand it. Just take a step back and think about it. You just don't understand it. And usually that pays off in most cases. I think most games are designed with this kind of stuff in mind, right? So I have to imagine you don't build this game unless you're trying to do something right. So otherwise, just pull a slot machine, dude. which I think is maybe to the point of that. Like that's a oversimplification of it. If you're saying something like that, kind of like when people are like, "Why will play Welcome to Pia Carrot?" But if you could just go look at like porn on the internet or something like that, right?
Yeah,
That kind
yeah,
of thing. It's like I
yeah.
think you're missing the point of
You're
this
missing the
conversation, actually.
the point
So
is
I think that's the danger of saying like just go play a slot machine. Like that to me tells me there's a misunderstanding of like what is happening here, I guess, in my
definitely
opinion. To
yeah
me, it's pinball plus slot machine. That's kind of how I feel about it. I feel comfortable with that categorization of Pachinko right now.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's an apt description.
yeah, and I'd rather play this over a slot machine for sure.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And like I said, we'll might be going at a little bit of a pace, but I think I forget if I said this at the beginning of the show or it was before the show. I don't feel any like personal like I don't feel like a depression in my interest of PCFX. It's just like a time commitment. So I don't think I'm sitting here being like, oh, it's over, baby. I think it's just I need the time to work stuff out and get it so I can continue down the PCFX road. But me and Filler have talked about a couple games that I think we're looking at playing here. So I think we're probably gonna follow up with another just talking about a game show. Maybe we'll see if anything shows up. We may maybe just coast with that for a while. Which hey, guess what? Playing PCFX games, we both could do more of that, I think. So I'd rather just talk about it on the internet. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So anyways, thank you so much for coming. Check out our socials if you don't on our Discord. I think our Discord's still pretty active though. Like I think you mentioned earlier that like it's been pretty busy and I think that's really cool. Anything you want to say otherwise?
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys have a great, whatever you're doing, night. Let's just say night. I don't know what time it is, but you at least have some night left.
Yeah.
11:59. You got 1 minute left. Enjoy your 1 minute. So, all right.
Play Pachio-kun FX.
Play Pachio-kun FX.